Most people explain Pakistan's governance problems in one sentence. The country has corrupt politicians. That is incomplete. Corruption is part of the problem, but Pakistan's governance crisis is much deeper. It involves weak institutions, political interference, bureaucratic delay, poor implementation, elite influence, weak local government, short-term policy making, and reforms that change structures without changing behavior. In simple words, the Pakistan case asks, why does the state repeatedly announce reform but struggle to deliver consistent results? Pakistan does not lack talented people. It has capable civil servants, professionals, entrepreneurs, and strong communities. The deeper problem is that capable people often work inside institutions that are slow, fragmented, politicized, and weakly accountable. Think about a company where employees are talented, but responsibilities are unclear. Managers are appointed through personal connections. Departments do not share information. Priorities change constantly. Nobody is held responsible for failure. That company may survive, but it will struggle to perform consistently. Pakistan's administration often faces the same problem. The state has ministries, departments, laws, budgets, courts, regulators, and local offices. The problem is that these institutions do not always work together effectively. One major issue is the bureaucratic structure inherited from colonial rule. It was designed mainly to maintain control, collect revenue, and implement decisions from the center. It was not designed primarily for citizen participation, local accountability, or flexible service delivery. Many of these habits continued after independence. Government became heavily dependent on hierarchy, files, approvals, and central authority. A decision may pass through several officers. Each officer can delay it, but responsibility for the final result remains unclear. This creates a common problem. Power is distributed widely, but accountability is distributed nowhere. Imagine a citizen applying for a license. The application moves from one desk to another. Each office asks for more documents or approval. Nobody clearly rejects it, but nobody completes it either. This may not always be dramatic corruption. Sometimes it is simple administrative dysfunction, but the result is the same. Time is wasted, trust falls, and unofficial payments become attractive. Complex procedures create discretion. Officials may decide how quickly a case moves or how strictly rules are interpreted. Some discretion is necessary, but when discretion is combined with weak oversight, it creates opportunities for favoritism, bribery, and delay. Political interference is another major problem. Transfers, promotions, postings, and appointments may be influenced by political relationships. A competent officer may be removed before completing a reform. Another may receive an important position because they are politically useful. Frequent transfers damage long-term performance. Imagine appointing a manager to fix a failing company and replacing them after 6 months. The next manager starts again. Nothing reaches completion. Government departments face the same problem. Officials focus on surviving politically rather than delivering long-term results. This also weakens institutional memory. A project should not collapse when one minister or officer leaves. Policies should survive leadership changes through systems, records, budgets, and clear responsibilities. The relationship between politicians and civil servants can also become dysfunctional. Politicians have democratic authority. Civil servants have administrative expertise. Politicians should set priorities, while civil servants should provide professional advice and implement decisions legally. But politicians may treat officials like personal employees. Civil servants may resist elected leaders. Both sides may blame each other when policies fail. The minister blames the bureaucracy. The bureaucracy blames political interference. The province blames the federal government. Local officials blame limited budgets, and citizens receive no answer. Pakistan also suffers from weak policy continuity. Each government wants new programs, names, slogans, task forces, and authorities. Older projects may be abandoned before they are evaluated. A useful program may be canceled simply because it belonged to the previous government. This creates a culture of announcements instead of completion. Large visible projects receive attention. Roads, hospitals, transport schemes, and digital portals look impressive. But maintenance, staff training, data quality, local capacity, and management receive less attention. A government may build a hospital, but without doctors, medicines, equipment maintenance, and proper administration, the building solves very little. Pakistan often creates new structures without fixing the system inside them. A new department is launched, a new commission is formed, a new portal is created, but the same weak incentives, overlapping responsibilities, political interference, and accountability problems remain. This creates confusion. Several institutions may share the same responsibility. If a project succeeds, everyone claims credit. If it fails, everyone blames someone else. Weak coordination between federal, provincial, and local governments also creates problems. A national policy may look excellent in Islamabad, but implementation depends on local officers, teachers, doctors, police, and municipal workers. If local capacity is weak, the policy fails before reaching citizens. Centralized decisions may also ignore local realities. A policy suitable for Lahore may not work in rural Balochistan. Strong local governments could improve service delivery because they understand local roads, sanitation, schools, water, and markets. But local governments in Pakistan often lack stable funding, authority, staff, and political protection. Provincial leaders may demand power from the center, but resist transferring it to cities and districts. Real decentralization requires authority, money, staff, and accountability. Local elections alone are not enough. Another major problem is elite capture. Powerful political families, landowners, businesses, officials, and contractors may influence policy for their own benefit. Tax exemptions may favor powerful sectors. Contracts may go to connected companies. Development funds may be directed toward politically valuable areas. Regulations may be strict for small businesses, but flexible for powerful actors. This creates unequal governance. Citizens can accept strict rules if they are applied fairly. They lose trust when the system is strict for the weak and flexible for the powerful. Taxation reflects this problem. Pakistan needs revenue, but struggles to collect it fairly. A limited number of taxpayers carry much of the burden, while influential sectors resist documentation and reform. Governments then depend heavily on indirect taxes, which affect ordinary consumers. Poor services reduce public trust. Low trust reduces tax compliance. Low tax revenue produces even poorer services. Breaking this cycle requires both fair enforcement and visible improvements in government performance. Pakistan does not lack policies. It has education plans, health strategies, energy reforms, development programs, and digital initiatives. The major weakness is implementation. A policy may be approved without clear responsibilities, proper funding, trained staff, reliable data, or performance measurement. This creates a large gap between policy design and policy reality. Education is one example. Governments may focus on enrollment, curriculum changes, or distributing technology. But enrollment does not prove learning. A child may attend school for years without gaining strong literacy or numeracy skills. Healthcare faces similar problems. Hospitals may be that overcrowded. Rural areas may lack doctors. Equipment may be purchased, but not maintained. Medicines may disappear. Staff may be officially employed, but absent. The problem is often not only spending, it is the failure to convert spending into reliable services. Accountability must therefore begin before a policy starts. Who is responsible? What is the deadline? What is the budget? How will performance be measured? What happens if the target is missed? In Pakistan, accountability is often politicized. Investigations may target opponents while protecting allies. At the same time, officials may become afraid to make decisions because they fear future investigations. This creates decision paralysis. Civil servants may delay procurement or refuse to sign files because doing nothing feels safer. A serious system must distinguish between corruption, negligence, and honest error. If all three are treated the same, competent officials will avoid innovation. Reliable data is another major weakness. Governments cannot manage what they do not understand. Accurate data is needed for schools, hospitals, taxation, welfare, transport, and disaster response. But records may be incomplete, outdated, politically manipulated, or stored in disconnected systems. Without reliable data, policy becomes guesswork. Digitalization can help. Online services, digital identities, electronic payments, tax systems, and connected databases can reduce delays and corruption. But a broken process does not automatically become efficient when moved online. If unnecessary approvals remain, citizens face digital delay instead of physical delay. Technology must be combined with process reform. Political instability also damages long-term planning. Governments change through elections, dismissals, military interventions, coalition breakdowns, and judicial decisions. A reform may require 10 years, but political leaders may not know whether they will remain in office for 2. This encourages short-term decisions and visible projects instead of difficult structural reforms. Pakistan's civil-military imbalance has also shaped governance. The military has played a major role in politics and national administration. Supporters argue that military-led systems can act quickly and maintain discipline. Critics argue that intervention weakens civilian institutions, democratic accountability, and long-term political development. The deeper problem is institutional imbalance. A country cannot permanently depend on one institution to correct the failures of all others. Political parties also have internal weaknesses. Many are organized around personalities, families, or elite networks. Policy development and internal democracy may remain limited. A party that lacks serious policy teams may enter government without the capacity to deliver reform. The media also focuses heavily on personalities, scandals, and political conflict. But real governance reform is technical and slow. Tax administration, civil service reform, procurement, municipal finance, police reform, land records, and school management receive less attention. As a result, public debate asks, who is corrupt, who is loyal, who is powerful, instead of which institution failed, why did it fail, who was responsible, and how will improvement be measured. Pakistan also copies models from other countries without always adapting them properly. Creating an independent regulator sounds modern, but real independence requires secure funding, professional staff, transparent appointments, legal protection, and freedom from political pressure. Without these conditions, the institution may exist only on paper. Civil service reforms are frequently proposed. They include merit-based recruitment, performance measurement, better training, stable postings, and less political interference. Many proposals are sensible, but reform changes power. Transparent postings reduce political influence. Performance-based promotion threatens seniority. Digital procurement reduces opportunities for private benefit. Local government reform transfers authority away from provinces. Tax reform affects powerful sectors. Real reform creates losers, and those benefiting from the current system are often better organized than the citizens who would benefit from change. This is one of the most important lessons. Reform failure is not always caused by ignorance. Sometimes, powerful groups understand the solution but do not want it implemented. Governments also make the mistake of trying to reform everything at once. Large transformation programs may cover dozens of departments but achieve very little. A better approach may begin with a few high-impact reforms. Simplify business registration, digitize land records, improve tax collection, stabilize civil service postings, strengthen local sanitation, measure real school learning, improve procurement. Small completed reforms can be more valuable than huge unfinished plans. But reforms must eventually become institutional rather than personal. A program that depends entirely on one leader will disappear when that leader leaves. Citizens experience the state through police stations, courts, hospitals, schools, tax offices, and local administration. If these experiences involve delay, bribery, disrespect, or confusion, trust declines. People then avoid formal systems. Businesses remain undocumented. Taxes are avoided. Personal connections become more valuable than legal rights. A strong state is not one that controls citizens through fear. It is one that provides predictable rules and reliable services. The rule of law is therefore essential. Laws must be clear, predictable, and applied equally. But court cases may take years. Land disputes continue across generations. Contracts become difficult to enforce. Powerful actors gain an advantage because they can afford longer legal battles. Police reform faces similar resistance. Politicians may publicly support professional policing, but privately resist losing influence over postings and investigations. Again, reform fails because it threatens existing power. But here is the brutal truth. Pakistan's governance problems cannot be blamed on only one group. Politicians interfere. Bureaucrats may resist accountability. Powerful institutions protect their interests. Businesses seek special treatment. Citizens sometimes use connections or pay unofficial fees to speed up their own work. Not everyone carries equal responsibility. Powerful actors carry more because they shape the system. But weak rules create a culture where informal behavior becomes normal. Pakistan does not need another reform slogan. It needs reforms that change incentives. That includes stable postings, merit-based recruitment, stronger local governments, fair taxation, reliable data, simplified procedures, professional regulators, independent evaluation, and equal application of law. Most importantly, reform must survive beyond one leader or government. There is no single heroic person who can permanently fix a weak state. Strong leadership matters, but lasting improvement requires institutions that continue working after the leader leaves. So Pakistan's governance crisis is not simply a story of corruption or bureaucratic delay. It is a case study in weak state capacity, political interference, policy discontinuity, elite capture, institutional imbalance, and repeated reform failure. But it is also a story of unrealized potential. Pakistan has shown that capable institutions can be built. The real challenge is making competence widespread, protected, and permanent. At the Learning Studio, we will not study Pakistan's governance problems to declare the country hopeless. We will understand them as serious institutional challenges. Because the real question is not only why are politicians corrupt, it is why are institutions weak? Why is implementation inconsistent? Who benefits from the current system? And what must change? So government performance no longer depends on personal connections or temporary political will.